Elected officials and legislative leadership, I will now introduce them. Please welcome Comptroller Thomas P. DiNapoli. Please welcome Attorney General Letitia James. Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. And once again, I'd like to acknowledge our speaker, Carl E. Hasty. The love is real. Thank you. Thank you.
It helps to have more. It helps to have.
I would also like to note the presence of Karen Persicilli-Keough, Secretary of the Governor. Elizabeth Fine, Counsel to the Governor. I also would like to note the presence of the distinguished members of the New York State Congressional Delegation. Additionally, please welcome our mayors and county executives who have joined us in the chamber today. And please remain standing as we welcome the New York National Guard Color Guard. It is my honor to welcome Bishop Darius Pridgeon, Senior Pastor of the True Bethel Baptist Church in Buffalo, to bless this session.
As we gather today to hear from the leader of our state, we gather together as a beautiful quilt of different races, positions, locations, beliefs, and goals. As a faith representative, along with many of the clergy who are here from different walks of faith in these chambers, today in these hallowed chambers, we join you to open this very important event. No matter what the title of your faith is, we generally agree on these principles: sacrifice, good works, humility, peace, justice, and above all others, love. It is with these principles in mind that we approach the God who we individually or collectively put our faith in. Let us pray. We have come together here in the capital of our great state as one New York. First, we pray for the 57th governor of our state, who made history with her election as the first woman governor of the state of New York. We pray that there will be many more historical moments in her tenure as she uses wisdom and humility, peace, love, and justice, and as she makes the often difficult decisions in most uncertain times. Secondly, we pray for the legislative bodies of this state and their most capable staff who are responsible for so much of the work that happens behind the scenes. We thank you for each of them whose tireless efforts and service working together for progress of our state. May pride and arrogance not keep them from their greatest purpose, and that is for the people of the state of New York. Always remind those whom you have chosen for the task of public office that they are not elected by the parties, they are elected by the people. Third, we pray for the most important people, and that is the people of the state of New York. May they find that the elected officials of the state of New York and those who support them are truly working together for justice, equity, opportunity, and inclusion. May they never forget the marginalized, the forgotten, and those who need their help the most. May our state stand out amongst all states of these United States of America as one who cares for our people even more than we care for our politics. Finally, let there be peace on earth. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Now please welcome Nathan Rogers, a fourth grade student from Waterville Elementary School, for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Nathan. Will the honor guard please retire the colors? Everyone in this room, along with Governor Hochul, has worked together over the last year to deliver a safer, more affordable, more livable state, both for New Yorkers today and for the next generation. These actions have already made a real impact on people across our state. Let's take a few minutes to hear directly from some of them.
In 2023, our state had big plans. And in the last 12 months, great things have been accomplished. This progress has impacted the lives of real New Yorkers like me. Like me. Like me. Like me. Their stories show us that the future of our state is bright.
I'm a student in New York because I know I can get a world-class, affordable higher education. I have a sense of pride and excitement knowing that I attend a school that leads the way in research and innovation. It is what I like to call my flex to my friends and family who know about the great things happening at Stony Brook. And I get to say to them, yeah, I get to go there.
I'm a parent in New York, and I have access to affordable childcare. The This childcare assistance is a lifesaver, going from not being able to pay my bills to being able to pay my bills. You know, the governor is a mother, a grandmother, and I really feel that she's looking out for me and, you know, other families that are like me.
I'm a grandmother in New York, and I feel safe riding the train to see my grandchildren. I've been a subway rider for about 50 years. It is very important to me to have a safe, reliable subway system. I use it to take care of my grandchildren twice a week. We're all just trying to get to work, do our jobs, see our families, and get home safely.
I'm a farmer in New York because my family can not only provide for my fellow New Yorkers, but also drive our local economy. Investing in agriculture is an investment for every New Yorker. We need nourishment every day, and farmers provide that first basic step. The investments that New York State has made in our dairy processing is going to be a huge boost.
I live in New York because this state cares about supporting people who are down on their luck or just need a boost to get back on their feet. I didn't think that I would need to move out of the place that I grew up my whole life in. To have permanent housing now means everything to me. To be out of that shelter, working full-time, able to see my children when I need to see them, come and go as I please, it means everything for me to have it.
I live in New York because I know this state supports the jobs of the future. We spent a lot of countless hours chasing the offshore wind product. Governor Hochul's worked to make sure that New York State businesses benefit from the offshore wind that's getting developed. Jobs create opportunities, and opportunities make our community a better community to live in.
I'm a student in New York because this is a state that prepares teenagers like me for the future. I'm in 8th grade and I'm from East Harlem. I know that it is important that every kid has a safe and happy childhood, and their families get the support they need to thrive.
I'm raising my family in New York because I know our kids' mental health is a priority here. A lot of young people don't feel like they're being heard.
Governor Hochul has taken the time to listen to young people about the challenges we are facing and is using those conversations to help get more kids the one-on-one attention and support they need.
I live in New York because this state is making historic investments to build safe, modern infrastructure that we can all depend on. Because of the investment of the infrastructures, we are now repairing the roadways, filling the potholes, creating new roadways. When we have invested in our infrastructure, we invest in our future, and we hand this down to our generations to come.
I'm growing up in New York because I know everyone in my state wants this to be a great place to live. And if we work together, we're going to make an amazing future for all of us. This is our New York, our future. Our New York, our future. Our New York, our future.
Pursuant to a resolution duly adopted in each of the houses of the legislature, the Senate and the Assembly of the State of New York are met in joint session for the purpose of receiving the annual message to the legislature from the Governor of the State of New York. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud and honored to present the 57th Governor to the State of New York, Kathy Hochul.
Thank you and good afternoon. It's an honor to be back with you in this hallowed chamber, a place where since 1879, civic-minded New Yorkers have wrestled with everything from the Great Depression to world wars to the everyday issues that matter most to the millions of people who call New York our home. Generations of past leaders have shared the solemn responsibility of representing their citizens, and I'm honored to be joined by the leaders of today. First, let me thank our Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado. He has done an amazing job. So proud to have him at my side. I want to thank Senior Pastor Darius Pridgeon for the beautiful invocation, and I look forward to seeing you perhaps this Sunday in church. Save me a seat. State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli, State Attorney General Tish James, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, Assembly Speaker, you can applaud any one of them you want, Assembly Member Carl Heastie, all right, I'm going back to the Majority Leader. Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Okay. Women have to look out for women, okay. Speaking of powerful women, Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes, great friend. Senate Minority Leader Robert Ort, again, another Western New Yorker. Assembly Minority Leader Will Barkley. The esteemed judges of the New York Court of Appeals. New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Mayors and county executives from all across the state. And we're also joined by, yes, give them applause, former governors David Patterson and George Pataki. Also, many representatives from labor, distinguished guests, and clergy leaders, including Dr. A.R. Bernard, who is the president of our Executive Interfaith Council. Members of my cabinet, Secretary Karen Persicilli-Keough and Counsel Liz Fine, and a special tribute to my policy director, the visionary behind many of our great ideas, Michael Asher. But today is not about us. It's about the 20 million hardworking New Yorkers we are privileged to represent and what we can deliver for them in the year ahead. Now, I've listened as New Yorkers have told me about the challenges they face and the dreams they hold. And it's with them in mind that I proudly share my vision for 2024. The state of New York is strong, stronger today than when I became governor 2 years ago. It's healthier, safer, more affordable. Now, we've traversed some rocky terrain, and there's still some switchbacks before we reach the summit. Across our nation and our state, people worry that a safe and affordable life is somehow out of reach. While shootings and murders have declined by double digits, safety at the grocery store, the synagogue, or the subway is always top of mind. And although we've made great strides to take guns off the streets, too many parents are still fearful as their children get on the bus each morning. And too often, troubled individuals are discharged from the hospital without receiving the care they need and go on to commit violent acts. The potential of a crime, no matter how serious, is causing anxiety for our residents. And on top of that, they're also frustrated with the rising cost of living. Inflation is down 9.1% to 3.1% over the last 18 months. Paychecks are finally growing, and yet our neighbors are struggling to make a dollar go further. And sadly, no matter how hard they work, they fear they'll never be as successful or get as far as their own parents did. These are the reasons that I fight every day, to give New Yorkers a better shot at a better life. And since taking office, I've worked with this legislature to create more than 600,000 jobs and reduce unemployment from 7.4% to 4%. And we did that while holding the line on taxes across the board, and in fact, we cut them for the middle class. We boosted K through 12 education by $5.3 billion, an extraordinary 18% increase. And we fully funded foundation aid for the very first time in history. We increased health care funding by 20% to more than $112 billion, and we gave $1.3 billion in raises to our hardworking home health care aides and bonuses for health care workers because they deserved it. And just this morning, as a result of our hard work with President Biden and his administration, we'll be able to invest over $6 billion in federal funds into our health care system over the next 3 years. This funding will help support our safety net hospitals, address health care workforce shortages, strengthen access to primary and behavioral health care, all important primaries of all of us. And on top of that, over the last 2 years, we invested over $7 billion in child care. And at the same time, we saved the MTA from a looming fiscal cliff that threatened the economy of an entire region, while ridership grew by 435 million new riders. And no administration and no legislature ever before has invested more money faster into our roads and bridges and public infrastructure to rebuild our state. And I'm grateful for your continued partnership and for the leadership of our Majority Leader, Andre Stewart-Cousins, and Carl Heastie, our Speaker. Thank you. Thank you to both of you. Thank you. Now, we've worked hard to restore integrity and trust in government. And here's what I know. You'll always see more headlines about the handful of places we disagree. But the truth is, we are united in our commitment to the people of this state. And together, we've already achieved so much. But standing here and reciting accomplishments is not what people want from their leaders. Now, we will continue to fight the right fights on their behalf and relentlessly pursue common sense ideas that lift up the people of this great state. Joining us today is Quentin Cologne Roosevelt. Quentin is the great-great-great-grandson of Teddy Roosevelt, who took the oath of office to be president exactly 125 years ago in a place called Buffalo. At just 19 years old, Quentin is the youngest elected official in our nation's capital. Quentin, stand up. Thank you. A great future. I told him in public service runs in his veins, and we expect even more. But like Quentin, I too was inspired by the 33rd governor of New York. In fact, I quoted Teddy Roosevelt my very first day in office. I promise to always strive valiantly on behalf of New Yorkers and be the woman in the arena. And that's exactly what we've done. That's why I'm willing to take on the stubbornly persistent crimes like retail theft, domestic violence, and hate crimes. We're going to also revolutionize our mental health insurance structure so people actually get the help they need. And we'll be protecting your hard-earned money from bad actors and predatory lenders. And at the same time, we'll continue to build New York to a place that welcomes businesses, new and existing, small and large, family-owned and publicly traded. We'll keep driving the long-delayed infrastructure and public transit projects like the 2nd Avenue subway extension, the Interborough Express, the I-81 Viaduct, the Kensington Expressway, creating thousands and thousands of good-paying union jobs so our workers can support their families. And we'll fight for minimum wage workers because no one should labor 40 hours a week and still live below the poverty line. And we'll fight for our farmers threatened by extreme weather and workforce shortages. We'll fight for seniors trying to make ends meet on a fixed income. We'll fight for women balancing motherhood and careers. We'll fight for children just beginning their journey in life. And in so doing, we'll pursue the common good with common sense by seeking common ground. As we uphold these commitments, understand this. We cannot spend money we do not have. Pandemic funds from Washington have dried up. Inflation didn't just hit families, it hit state government operations as well. So it's up to all of us to make the hard yet necessary decisions and use taxpayer dollars creatively and responsibly. And I'll discuss how I'll tackle some of the toughest fiscal issues like caring for migrants and a structural deficit in next week's budget speech. But right now, let's talk about how we provide a better life for New Yorkers, starting with the initiatives we already announced since the new year. Last year, infant deaths were up for the first time in 20 years. And Black and brown women remain 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth. I won't let this continue on my watch. We must ensure moms have healthy pregnancies. So I want to make New York the first state in the nation to offer prenatal leave. We must protect women from unnecessary surgeries that put them at risk. And we're also giving children the resources they need to live full, healthy, successful lives. And that starts with teaching them how to read. I say it's time to get rid of debunked curriculums in schools and get back to basics, using phonics and proven techniques that work. We're also promoting physical health and well-being by building pools in underserved areas and teaching people to swim. And I'm proud that Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado will lead a newly created Office of Service and Civic Engagement. He and his team will connect New Yorkers who want to give back, especially young people, to service opportunities all across the state. And this is just the start of our comprehensive agenda for New York in 2024. We'll protect the environment by planting 25 million trees, fund resiliency efforts, and expand solar access, and make sure our state meets our bold emission targets. We'll promote jobs in agriculture and invest in family-owned farms. We'll connect New Yorkers with disabilities to career opportunities and fund research into rare diseases like ALS that robs millions like my own mother of their vitality. While we address countless challenges with 204 policy initiatives in our 2024 State of the State book, which I'm sure will find its way to your nightstands this evening, Today, I'm going to just focus on a few key common sense items for our agenda. Fighting crime, fixing our mental health system, and protecting New Yorkers' hard-earned money. Now let's talk about crime. If government can't keep their citizens safe, then nothing else matters. Now, last year, we reduced gun violence, bringing shootings down by a third all across the state. Murders are down 21% in New York City, 38% upstate. We made key revisions to bail reform to make New York safer. We enacted gun control legislation that's a model for the rest of the nation. But certain types of crime have been stubbornly high. New Yorkers see it every day. Graffiti scrawled outside a synagogue. Baby formula locked behind plastic panels. A couple's argument turns violent and punctuated by gunshots. And on the subway, people suffering a mental breakdown or an overdose. Episodes like these can cause an atmosphere of anxiety in our communities. But our success in driving down gun violence proves that targeted strategies do work and that changing trends is indeed possible. So today we're unveiling a series of crime-fighting tactics alongside an era-defining mental health initiative, so New Yorkers can live free from chaos and disorder and focus on the things in life that matter most. First, we must ensure everyone is safe at home by protecting them from domestic violence. Random attacks come with a press coverage, but New Yorkers are much more likely to be hurt by someone they know. In 1/3 of assaults, the attacker and the victim have a prior relationship. Our system fails too many survivors. In New York City alone, 84% of domestic violence arrests end with dismissals. Think about that. And before last year, too many abusers had access to guns, so we changed the law. Now the Supreme Court is poised to possibly overturn a law that keeps guns away from the abusers. So we need to strengthen protections, and it's more urgent now than ever before. You may have heard me talk about mother domestic violence team. She dedicated her life to survivors to break the cycle of trauma. And we know that prosecuting violent abusers is the best way to protect survivors. Take the story of Elizabeth Beechard, who's here with us today. Elizabeth, please stand. Elizabeth lives right across the river in Troy. Not long ago, she was trapped in an abusive relationship. She and her pets suffered regular abuse at the hands of her ex-boyfriend. He killed one of her kittens, maimed another, then one day her life changed. A veterinarian told her about Unity House, a nonprofit that helps survivors of domestic violence. Eventually, she met Troy Police Detective Russ Clements, who's also joined us. Detective Clements. Thank you. Thank you. He helped Elizabeth find the strength to pursue justice and filed charges. He assisted her with police reports and stood by her side at the grand jury. With his support, Elizabeth has made a clean break from her abuser and is rebuilding her life. Let's give them both a round of applause. I want to hear more hopeful stories like this, and that's why we're dedicating $20 million so district attorneys can gather evidence to prosecute abusers and take their guns away. And we're committing more funding so police can protect those most at risk of abuse and clamp down on repeat offenders, because every survivor should have the same chance to break the chain of violence and build a new life. Across our nation and our state, retail theft has surged, creating fear among the customers and the workers. Thieves brazenly tear items off the shelves and menace employees. Owners go broke replacing broken windows and stolen goods, driving many out of business. These attacks are nothing more than a breakdown of the social order. I say no more. The chaos must end. And for the very first time, we're launching a joint operation between federal, state, and local law enforcement, along with the brand new state police unit to crack down on organized retail theft. As I said, we used this approach with illegal guns and it worked. I'm also proposing to help those business owners with a tax credit to help them cover the additional security costs. And I'll work with the legislature to strengthen penalties for assaulting a retail worker or fostering the sale of stolen goods online. Let's get it done. Let's back our businesses and the workers with the full force of the law, and punish those who think they can break the rules with impunity. And this extends to the illegal cannabis vendors who flagrantly violate our laws. We'll empower localities to go after the unlicensed shops, prosecute businesses that sell to minors, and padlock their doors faster. Finally, regarding crime, I want to talk about hate crimes, particularly the rising tide of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Since the horrific attacks by Hamas against Israel on October 7th, there's been roughly a 95% increase in hate crimes against Jewish residents of New York City. And we're seeing a surge of anti-Muslim hate crimes as well. Our neighbors are being targeted on playgrounds and synagogues and mosques and on college campuses. And I will not rest until every Jewish and Muslim child feels safe going to school or entering a house of worship. So we propose to make more than 24 additional offenses, from gang assaults to graffiti, eligible for prosecution as hate crimes. This means enhanced liability, sentences, and ultimately, it means we're standing up for what's right. We will protect the people of this state. We'll carry this fight until every New Yorker feels safe at home, at prayer, and at work. But no matter how much we spend on law enforcement to expand their powers, New Yorkers will not be able to let their guard down until we fix our mental health system. Here's the truth. From Brooklyn to Buffalo, many New Yorkers are suffering. Mental illness doesn't discriminate. It touches the rich and the poor, the schools, citizens with the senior centers with the same severity. Even our first responders are suffering. Experiences on the job exposed to horrific circumstances. And suicide rates among law enforcement are about 60% higher than the rest. And too often, incidences on our victims themselves. To provide the treatment they need. Care must be widely available, accessible, and affordable. Yet, mental health must be prioritized and funded. Over the 10 years before I took office, mental percent with inflation, too few psychiatric, too few mental with pandemic isolation, addiction, and it's no wonder we have such a serious problem. Has 33% us to do. Housing needs for people suffering from mental illness. Increase inpatient psychiatric measures to help our children, including millions for suicide. Focusing on kids, that's critical to a precious resource. And investing in mental health services for the young means they won't be relegated to a lifetime of needing care later on. When schools closed during the pandemic, kids turned to social media to stay connected with friends and family. But a darkness lives on those platforms. Content often promotes themes of sadness, alienation, even suicide. The algorithms that make social media so addictive push that darkness onto young users. I'm thinking about New Yorkers like Alex Spence, who grew up on Long Island. He was only 11 years old. And immediately, the algorithm started suggesting images and videos about eating disorders and themes promoting low self-worth. By the time she was 15, young Alex was spiraling. She was losing weight. She didn't sleep. Her life wasn't hers anymore. It belonged to the algorithm. After her parents intervened, and after 2 weeks in a psychiatric facility without her phone, she emerged a changed person, able to assert herself again. Today, she advocates for other young people at risk and dreams of the day of testifying before Congress about the dangers of social media. Believe it or not, Alex is one of the lucky ones. And her mother, Kathleen, is here with us today. Kathleen, please stand. Thank you. Thank you. Here's what Kathleen says. Social media is a silent killer of our children's generation. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 teens have considered suicide, double the figure just a decade ago. For teenage girls, the numbers is 1 in 3. That's why we're going to tackle the scourge of social media that has harmed so many young minds. Attorney General James, the two of us together will continue demanding accountability from social media companies. We'll advance legislation to protect children's privacy and regulate the algorithms that target them on social media feeds. We'll expand peer-to-support programs so kids can share safe spaces with other kids with the same challenges. In the meantime, we have to help the kids who are hurting right now. We'll start with historic investments to make mental health services available to every single school-age child. and ensure that every school that wants a mental health clinic will get one. And I'm glad to be joined today by another great New Yorker, Brianna Braverman. Brianna worked tirelessly. She's worked to support school-age New Yorkers through a program called Youth Act, which enables young people wrestling with mental illness to stay in their schools and communities rather than receiving inpatient treatment. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you for all you're doing. So we're building on the progress she already made. Everyone can agree that healthy children are more likely to grow into healthy adults, but too many grow up without the support they need and pose a danger to themselves or others. That's why I'm proposing comprehensive reforms to our behavioral health system. Starting in 2024, we will require hospitals to screen patients with mental health conditions for risks like suicide, violence, substance abuse, and other complex needs. We will also require that follow-up psychiatric care be coordinated before patients can leave the hospital. It's common sense, but it hasn't been happening. And let's significantly expand mental health courts, which are proven to reduce recidivism. And empower court-based mental health specialists, our most vulnerable will get help, rather than just cycle in and out of the justice system. And as we know, the most extreme cases involve people committing violent crimes, often lacking the capacity to live safely on their own. Just 2 weeks ago, at Grand Central Station, one of those individuals pulled a knife and stabbed 2 young tourists. Thankfully, the injuries were not life-threatening, but episodes like this extract a vast psychological toll on our communities and everyone else. And just as that act of violence was absolutely abhorrent and inexcusable, so too were the repeated failures that allowed the perpetrator to slip through the cracks. Diagnosed with numerous mental health conditions, including schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. He had a history of terrorizing those he loved and falling into rageful, menacing episodes. He should have received help long ago. We can no longer wait for someone to lash out and hurt someone before we take action, because by then, it's already too late. And a relatively small number of people need the most intensive care. So we'll fund specialized housing to provide services to these individuals with a history of criminal justice involvement. We often know that, also know New Yorkers in crisis are discharged back into our communities, not because they've recovered, but because there's no more room in our hospitals. And that's why we're creating 200 best-in-class patient beds for those with the most serious needs. But mental health care is not just for those in crisis. Whether it's anxiety, depression, grief, addiction, we've all needed support at one time or another to get through the struggles of life. But seeing a therapist can be expensive, and some people can't afford out-of-pocket payment. And for too long, many insurance companies have refused to adequately pay for mental health support. That changes now. I want to increase reimbursement rates for all state licensed mental health services, and new regulations will require insurers to provide out-of-network coverage. Timely appointments are not available in network. So to enforce it, we'll give the Department of Financial Services more staff, more discretion to increase fines on insurers who flout the new rules. So I recommend you don't. This matters because we know when people don't get help, their struggles only become more intense. Addiction is the same. We've all seen lives in every corner of the state sapped by opioid dependence. My own family has been touched by this epidemic of pain. I still mourn the loss of my nephew and the millions of other lives needlessly cut short. And that's why we're harnessing over $200 million in settlement funds secured by our Attorney General James to bolster and support our workforce, for addiction treatment professionals, to grow street outreach efforts, to shoot more naloxone, and millions more life-saving fentanyl strips. You know, we're leading the nation in disbursement of these funds and spending them quicker than any other state. I envision a future no parent ever again has to find their child lifeless and glassy-eyed on the floor. Where every New Yorker can feel safe walking the streets or taking the subway. And where our children have every resource to become the best version of themselves. Protecting financial health of New Yorkers has to be a top priority of ours as well. We've worked hard together, the legislature and our administration, to make New York more affordable. Since I took office, we raised the minimum wage and tied it to inflation. We delivered tax relief and utility savings to millions of low and middle class New Yorkers. And we recruited world-class companies, bringing their high-paying jobs to New York. Last week, I detailed a series of actions to protect New Yorkers from cheats and scammers. Right now, I'm proposing the first significant change to our consumer protection laws in over 40 years. We're going to prohibit unfair and abusive practices like student loan servicers pushing borrowers toward the most expensive repayment options, and debt collectors who manipulate seniors into giving up their protected income. We'll establish regulations on the buy now, pay later loan industry, which often lures customers into spending beyond their means. And we're taking on medical debt and dramatically increasing paid disability leave. Because, believe it or not, disability leave has not been raised a penny in 35 years. What's the point of paying for this benefit your whole life if it only gives you a fraction of what you need to recover? We have to right this wrong and increase this benefit from a paltry $170 a week, which is what people get right now, to bring it up where it would have been adjusted for inflation, as much as $1,250. That's 7 times more than it's time. Because we all know, any of us can be sick with an illness or lifting in the gym. It can happen at any moment. It's getting right ambulance or minor surgery can lead to people's financial ruin. You've seen it. I've already signed some of your bills, and thank you. Scrubbing medical debt from reports, banning providers from garnishing wages, and now what we're going to do next. I'm proposing that we protect low-income New Yorkers being new medical debt that they cannot pay, and cap monthly payments and interest, and expand hospital financial programs. You know, the cost of saving also weighs down New Yorkers. Of the 1.6 million New Yorkers diagnosed with diabetes, many can't afford the insulin. One of them is Heather Whitney, who's needed insulin every day to survive for the last 32 years. Heather joined us today. Heather, please stand up. Managing disease, don't have insulin when they go off to college. Seniors don't have a higher dose, and parents have to go without insulin. Child is what it needs. So thank you. Thank you for your advocacy on behalf of our citizens. to make sure their own sick child has what it needs. So thank you. Thank you for your advocacy on behalf of our citizens. So let's end that as well. I want a ban on copays for insulin for anyone in a state-regulated insurance plan. Because no one asked to become a diabetic, and they deserve our care and compassion. Now let's get to the most important issue when it comes to affordability. You ready? Okay. The obscenely high cost of rents and mortgages caused by the unconscionable shortage of housing in New York. You know, it's one of the forces driving people out of every corner of our state. And outmigration is a problem we need to talk about. For 50 years, we've been hemorrhaging families who no longer can raise their children in the same communities where they were born. And this decline shows no sign of stopping. But here's what's so interesting. People aren't necessarily moving for warmer weather or lower taxes. Many are moving next door. Of the top 5 states that New Yorkers are moving to, 3 of them share our borders and have similar taxes. People are earning in New York, but living in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. We're losing population relative to other states. And what does that mean? It's a loss of influence. We went from 43 members of Congress when I was a little girl to just 26 today. But for decades, no elected official in New York had the political courage to even start a conversation about building more housing. Now, big cities around the nation, including our neighbors, showed ambition that dwarfed our own. From 2011 to 2020, Washington, D.C. developed 72 new housing units per 1,000 residents. Boston developed 47. New York City, thriving metropolis, place people want to be, only 27. And people want to be here. So until we address our housing shortage, many of our neighbors will continue to struggle financially. 1 year ago, I pushed what the New York Times described as the most ambitious housing plan since the Rockefeller administration in the 1960s. Unfortunately, many made it clear they would not support it. I knew we were unlikely to win this fight overnight or even in 1 year. But this dire situation demanded immediate action, and I didn't want to wait around for the next legislative session. We found innovative solutions using executive orders, freeing 5,500 units in Gowanus that have been languishing in limbo. We offered financial incentives that people had asked for, financial incentives for pro-housing communities that demonstrate a willingness to build. Today, I'm announcing a plan to expand on those efforts by developing on sites that are owned by state agencies, including former correctional facilities, areas near commuter rail stations, and underutilized SUNY properties. This initiative alone could create up to 15,000 new housing units. I know it's a good start, but it's not enough to fix our affordability crisis. So let's be honest with New Yorkers. The only thing that'll solve this problem is building hundreds and hundreds of thousands of homes. Now, New York already spends more than any other state in our nation on housing. Our capital plan is the most ambitious in history, deploying state and private dollars, adding up to $25 billion in funding. Now, what does that get us? Sounds like a lot of money, right? That results in 100,000 new and preserved units, very important, but still a fraction of what we need. Here's what I know. Spending more money or insisting on new regulations will not get us out of the deep hole dug by decades of inaction or overcome the lack of courage to do simply what is required. Already, New York has vastly more regulated housing stock than any other state, but it still hasn't meant more homes for people. And that's where the status quo has failed. It's a Band-Aid when we need reconstructive surgery. So where does that leave us? We still need an effective statewide approach to encourage new construction. But in the meantime, there are aggressive actions we can and must take now. Now, I remember last year, many of the loudest voices in opposition said they believed in local control. Okay, let's put that to the test. The city of New York, which is a local government, wants to build 500,000 more homes over a decade. I agree. Let them build. Our plan for New York City includes 4 components of what I proposed last year. Restoring tax incentives to build housing that includes affordable housing, eliminating outdated restrictions on residential density that prevents the city from building more, supporting no-brainer ideas like the conversion of underutilized commercial property into homes. That can't be hard. And legalizing basement apartments where New Yorkers already live. Again, what we saw in every other state that met the challenge of building more housing, it took decades. But I approach this crisis with the sense of urgency that is required. So what are we waiting for? Let's unleash New York City's potential beginning this session. Do you agree with that, Mayor Adams? All right. So now is the time to act. New Yorkers are tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting. And I know we can do this. It takes political will, it takes collaboration, and it takes a commitment to deliver what New Yorkers desperately want. And we, my friends, are up to the task because police officers, firefighters, nurses, and teachers should be able to live in the communities they serve. And our children and grandchildren should be able to one day build a life in the towns and cities where they grew up. And while building more homes is absolutely essential, it's also essential that we have good paying long-term jobs so people can provide for their families. Now, I know as an upstater who lived through decades of decline and job loss, there was a time when our greatest export was our children. I'm glad to report those days are finally over. But as a governor, I know it's hard to recruit new businesses. But if we're intentional, targeted, invest in our communities, our infrastructure, our education system, then we can beat out all the other states, and land incredible companies. I know we can do it because that's how we attracted Micron with its 50,000 jobs and $100 billion of investment. At the same time, we have to keep supporting our homegrown companies like Corning, IBM, Global Foundries, and countless others. But it's not just about jobs in tech. It's about the ripple effect when they come, the local construction jobs that are created, the restaurants, the small businesses that flourish as a result. Now, since taking office, I've been laser focused on developing industries of the future, like semiconductors across the state. But now, we have a unique and fleeting opportunity to catapult New York ahead of its competition, I propose nothing short of making New York the global leader in AI research and development, the leader for the nation, the leader for the world. Because our reputation across the globe has always been synonymous with boldness and innovation. So where else but New York should this be happening? AI is already the single most consequential technological commercial advancement since the invention of the internet. Global AI has already been valued at $100 billion just last year, and it's brand new. And it's projected to reach $1.3 trillion by 2030. Now, other states want it too, not to mention foreign powers like China. But whoever dominates the AI industry will dominate the next era of human history. That's what we can do here in New York. Those next generation supercomputers, they'll power AI, but they're currently in the hands of just a handful of private companies. Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI. I'm proud to announce that New York will be the first place in the world to put that type of computing power directly in the hands of leading academic institutions who've stepped up to participate. Cornell, NYU, Columbia, RPA, and our entire SUNY and CUNY systems. We have geniuses at these schools just ready and poised to innovate and launch new companies. And now they'll have the power to change the world. Now, in order to win this race for the future, we need this specific hardware. And that's why I'm proposing the Empire AI Consortium to purchase and share AI computing power right here in New York. And we've already secured more than $125 million from philanthropic and university partners. And over the next decade, the state will commit up to $275 million to the consortium. So you say, what's in this for New Yorkers? Well, just like Silicon Valley exploded in the 1980s, we will be the birthplace of countless new startups, spin-offs, and the technological advancements that benefit everyone. Just imagine the possibilities. AI can help diagnose cancer and cure diseases. It can predict dangerous storms, so our communities have advanced flood warnings. We could use that today. Or uncover solutions for stubborn racial and economic disparities in our communities. That's something Holiday Sims, a senior at the University of Buffalo, who's with us here today, is already working on. Holiday? Let me tell you what Holiday's doing. She's conducted research on how AI can improve the child welfare system. And she's passionate about increasing Black women's participation in computer science. Holiday, stand up again. Thank you. Holiday and scholars like her in our universities will help build this industry of the future. And with this new consortium, we will drive ethical AI development and do it in a way that protects our workers and make it a force for good in the world. We'll be the very first to harness the power of the private sector, academia, and government to galvanize this industry. And as I said, we'll share this power and make it available to people like Holiday who are innovating for the good of society. That's how we change the world. Together, we can ensure our children grow up in a new cradle of innovation, a globally competitive AI-driven economy created right here in New York. This is my final message, direct to New Yorkers. You've heard promises before, and it's hard not to be cynical or feel overwhelmed by the swirl of chaos in our news feeds. The war in Israel and Gaza, white supremacists attacking our houses of worship and schools and grocery stores, unfettered theft at the local drugstore, and the stack of bills on the kitchen counter that never seems to go away. New Yorkers look at their bank accounts, wondering how they'll pay their rent or afford the insulin for their child to survive. Those nights of worry can be so long, so dark. And I know in those moments, I can actually understand why some people feel the sun is setting on the Empire State. But I don't despair, because I see light on the horizon. We are a state where resiliency runs in our veins. No mountain is too high for us to summit. And you know what? Our strength is forged in the diversity in the industry of our people. We succeed because of our contrasts and our amazing differences, because we know we're more powerful together than on our own. You know, it's fascinating to me that our great state is home to the world's leading financial institutions, but also supports the tiny mom and pop shops that dot the main streets of our tiniest villages. You know, to me, New York is a living, breathing body. With all of its flaws and imperfections, it's still an extraordinary and magnificent being. It's the creative minds that bring song and dance to Broadway and action to our screens. It's the strong backs of our proud manufacturing workers who make products sold around the world. It's the deft hands of the most gifted surgeons fighting cancer and saving lives. It's the strong shoulders of our hardworking farmers cultivating their fields and feeding our people. It's the nurturing spirit of our child care providers and teachers who care for our children. It's the concerned eyes of our healthcare workers striving to heal the sick and comfort the dying. And it's even the welcoming smile of bodega owners making a bacon, egg, and cheese in the morning. You know, they're good, I've had them. Quoting the philosopher Taylor Swift, she reminds us that everybody here was somebody else before. And although people might live fundamentally different lives, you know, they still stand side by side on the subway platform or sit at a counter in a diner upstate or Long Island, united as New Yorkers. We all want our great state to succeed. It also means lending a helping hand to those in need. Another one of my predecessors, FDR, said, "The test of our progress is not whether we add to the abundance to those who have much, it's whether we provide enough for those who have too little." That's why we must lift more people into the middle class and give them the same opportunities that my own immigrant grandparents had, and many of your parents and grandparents, even you. We don't want a New York that's a huge gulf between the rich and the poor. We want to build a bridge to the middle class and beyond. Today I've told you how we'll build that bridge in 2024. We're enacting a vision of New York where veterans can embark on incredible careers fighting climate crisis and green energy, offshore wind, where unions are strong and our infrastructure is resilient to withstand those 100-year storms. It's where all children learn to read and swim, where children with disabilities have pathways to pursue their dreams, where our LGBTQ+ neighbors are free to be their true selves without discrimination, where we honor and support our First Nations communities, and where women know that I'll always fiercely protect their right to an abortion, as well as fair wages, freedom from domestic violence, sexual assault, and harassment. Thank you. My friends, we will never compromise our progressive values as New Yorkers, because our New York is as powerful as Niagara Falls. It shines as brightly as the Montauk Lighthouse. Our New York stands as resolute as Lady Liberty, and our compassion runs as deep as glacier-carved Seneca Lake. In our state, we stand with New Yorkers, even on their darkest days, and we support all people to live their lives with optimism and hope. And if we as leaders fulfill our commitments and our promises, then this is the dawning of a new day. Welcome to our New York. Welcome to our future. Thank you.
Like any true love, it drives you crazy.